November 2019. Heavy rain and biting wind swept through the empty streets of East London, wrapping around a rather bleak 5-story brick apartment building. Inside Flat 42 lived Daniel Mercer. He was a 34-year-old software engineer who kept strictly to himself and lived completely alone. Every single morning, Daniel left for coffee at exactly 7:30 a.m., and every evening he returned home at exactly 6 p.m. During the second week of November, that clockwork routine collapsed. Daniel stopped leaving his apartment entirely, and shortly after, he vanished. In place of his quiet schedule, neighbors reported hearing a new presence inside the unit. Heavy, deliberate footsteps paced the floorboards at all hours, and around 3 a.m., the distinct sound of whispering echoed through the walls. This total collapse of Daniel's rigid schedule signaled the quiet predictability of Flat 42 had been replaced by unsettling and erratic anomalies. After 5 days without seeing Daniel, the building manager knocked on his door. He received no answer, but standing in the hallway, he clearly heard soft movement inside. Then silence. He called the police. 2 officers arrived at 8:45 p.m. They knocked and announced themselves, only to hear a heavy thud from the other side of the door. Then both officers heard slow footsteps walking directly toward them. Step, step, step. And then nothing. The officers forced the door open, but the intruder they expected to find wasn't there. Instead, the apartment was mundane and undisturbed. The television was on, a half-eaten dinner on the table, and his phone was still charging, next to his wallet and keys. They searched every room, every closet, and even under the furniture. There was no sign of Daniel, no blood, and zero evidence of a struggle. The front door had been securely locked from the inside. Every window in the apartment was also sealed shut, creating a perfectly closed environment. A man had physically vanished from a perfectly sealed, internally locked enclosure just seconds after 2 police officers heard him walking toward the door. To make sense of Daniel's disappearance, investigators had to split the evidence into 2 contradictory datasets. We'll begin with dataset 1, what was heard. While examining Daniel's phone, police found a 47-second voice recording created just 2 hours before they breached the door. The audio contains heavy breathing, followed by Daniel's terrified whisper, "I don't know who he is." After a loud creak, Daniel speaks again, quieter this time. "He's standing in the hallway." Seconds of silence pass before Daniel delivers his final sentence. "Someone is already inside the apartment." This audio is corroborated by external evidence. Both officers heard the footsteps with their own ears, and a hallway security microphone captured the exact same sequence of movement. Based strictly on this auditory data, forensic investigators had corroborated proof that a second person was moving inside Flat 42. But visual and physical evidence contradicts those sounds entirely. This is dataset 2, what was seen. CCTV footage from the building proved that for 5 consecutive days, no one entered or exited Flat 42. Neither Daniel nor a stranger was ever captured on camera. 3 days after Daniel vanished, police discovered a hollow wall panel in the bedroom that led to a narrow, hidden crawlspace between the apartments. Inside this gap, they found water bottles, food wrappers, and a flashlight. It appeared someone had been secretly living inside the walls, watching Daniel for weeks. However, forensic analysis proved this space had been sealed shut from the inside for years. The entry points were covered in an unbroken layer of old paint and thick, undisturbed dust. These physical markers proved it was impossible for any human being to have entered or escaped through that wall recently. Investigators were left with an irreconcilable paradox. The auditory data proving presence and the physical data proving absence exclude one another. Solving the case requires either disregarding recorded human senses or ignoring the basic laws of physics. Daniel Mercer has never been found. There is no body, no suspect, and no logical explanation for his disappearance. The evidence gathered in Flat 42 remains a set of contradictory facts, where every lead points toward a physical impossibility. If the physical forensics prove Daniel was alone inside that locked box, who made the heavy footsteps walking toward the police?